So that's why I think the Anglo-American Empire via Blinken this week, they've upped the ante, and I think things are going to get more and more chaotic geopolitically. Saturday, April 27th, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I don't cover geopolitics too much, but geopolitics is key in the battle for resources in the new multipolar world that we're seeing develop through the BRICS, and geopolitics as well. It's the way countries set foreign policy, and U.S. foreign policy has been guided by geopolitics and specifically world domination. And I started this channel back in late 2015, and at the time, the conflict in Syria was heating up quite a bit. Russia was involved. And I made a video about geopolitics back then. It was one of my first videos for this channel. And I'm going to put it up in the cards. You can listen to the whole thing. My delivery, of course, was not as polished as it is today, but I recommend that you go through the whole video. Nevertheless, one thing I talked about in that video was that we were at war with Russia already. 2015. And that we would eventually probably even go to war with China. And how did I know that? Did I have a crystal ball? No, but you can listen to my video back then if you want. And you'll see why I said that. But if you don't want to listen to it, I'm going to go through it here as succinctly as I can. And it's called... The idea is the geographical pivot of history. And this was a theory developed by the founding father of geopolitics, an Englishman called Alfred John Mackinder. He was born in 1861 and he died, I think, in 1948 or so. And he was very important in developing the British Empire foreign policy, and I would argue the neocon foreign policy in the United States. So what is the geographical pivot of history, and why is it so important? Well, let's see what Wikipedia says. The geographical pivot of history is an article submitted by Alfred John Mackinder in 1904 to the Royal Geographical Society that advances his heartland theory. In this article, Mackinder extended the scope of geopolitical analysis to encompass the whole entire globe or the planet. He defined Afro-Eurasia as the world island and its heartland as the area east of the Volga River, south of the Arctic, and west of the Yangtze River, and north of the Himalayas. Due to its strategic location and natural resources, Mackinder argued that whoever controlled the heartland could control the world. So let's look at the world island, the concept of the world island. So the world island comprising the interlinked continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe, Afro-Eurasia. This was the largest, most populous, and richest of all possible land combinations. And then you have the offshore islands, including the British Isles, Hainan, the Japanese archipelago, Madagascar, the Malay archipelago, Sri Lanka, and Taiwan. And now we come to an interesting geographical area. It's called the outlying islands, including the interlinked continents of North America and South America, as well as Oceania. And this is what it says here about the heartland. The heartland lay at the center of the world island, stretching from the Volga to the Yangtze and from the Arctic to the Himalayas. Mackinder's heartland was the area then ruled by the Russian Empire, and after that by the Soviet Union, minus the Kamchatka Peninsula region, which is located in the easternmost part of Russia, near the Aleutian Islands and the Kuril Islands. And here we come to Eastern Europe, the strategic importance of Eastern Europe. It says, later in 1919, Mackinder summarized his theory thus, and this, of course, was just after the end of World War I, in the run-up to the Treaty of Versailles, and that's why what happened there is still significant today in the Treaty of Versailles. So he said, his summary is, who rules East Europe commands the heartland. Who rules the heartland commands the world islands. Who rules the world island commands the world. So I'm going to stop right here. I went over this in my video from 2015. But to put it in a nutshell, after World War II, of course, there was bipolarity. You had the Soviet Union controlling eastern, part of this world island through Eastern Europe, East Germany, and the Soviet satellite states. And you had the United States and Britain and the Allies controlling basically Western Europe up to Central Europe, of course. And so there was no world domination. But with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, that all ended. And the world domination was up for grabs. And that's what the neocons have been trying to do ever since 1991. And I talk in my video from 2015 about the fact that Gorbachev and Bush Sr. Agreed not to extend NATO or weapons of mass destruction into East Germany. And they didn't even talk about expanding NATO and weapons of mass destruction into the other Eastern Europeans, ex-Warsaw Pact countries. That was not even in their minds, but they never specified it. And lo and behold, NATO expanded east. And Gorbachev and even Putin, they have said that there was no deal about this, but it's been breaking the spirit of the agreement that the Americans and the Soviets made about East Germany. And this is what it's all about. And you will see, the project for the new American century. And Blinken, of course, is part of the neocons. Wolfowitz was part of the neocons. And I also talk about General Wesley Clark, who said that 7 countries were going to be invaded in 5 years. And that was back in 2001. And they thought it was going to be much easier to do that. And why is that? Well, because they thought the Russians and to some extent the Chinese would not resist the Americans. They would just let them do it. But that hasn't been the case. And that's why we're here in 2024. And those 7 countries haven't really been all invaded. We still have Iran at play. Syria, they didn't succeed in Syria, mainly because of the Russians. And that's why I said in my video from 2015 that we were already at war with Russia and that we would probably go to war with China. And I'm going to play about 3 minutes here of my video back then so you can hear that. If you look at what General Clark said, that they would invade 7 countries in 5 years, it's been about 12 years since the Iraq War, so they haven't got Syria yet, so it's taken them a lot longer. So I would say that their game of, conquering the heartland and Eurasia and the world has been scuppered. As Wolfowitz said, he didn't expect the Soviet Union or the remnants of the Soviet Union, which is the Russian Federation, to get involved, and they didn't expect Russia to get involved and block, NATO or America's mission of controlling Eurasia and the heartland. And that's why, it looks like now, we have a fight. The West is basically fighting Russia because Russia is spoiling the plan of the Neocons. And, according to General Clark, the root of the problems in the Middle East is this strategy of the Neocons to destabilize it so that they can come in and have a presence there, so they can stop other countries, i.e. Russia or China, from controlling Eurasia and the world. But personally, I don't think Russia wants to control the world. They just want to have their say, but that would spoil the neocon strategy of world domination. We've seen the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, go to Beijing just these past few days. People were showing him arriving there, that there was no red carpet for him. They compared that to a visit that Lavrov made recently to Beijing, and it was completely different, the welcome. And I've listened also to the Duran. They're probably the best, arguably the best geopolitics YouTube channel out there, and they were talking about this. And they said that aside from insulting the Chinese, telling them that, you need to do this or else we're going to sanction your banks, we're going to sanction you. They also pissed off the Chinese leadership because I had forgotten about this. There was a meeting, I think in November. It was a meeting of the Asia Pacific countries in San Francisco, and they arranged an informal meeting between Biden and Xi Jinping, and apparently, that went quite well. But now the Americans are upping the ante, and I think it's a big blunder, but it has all to do with this geographical pivot of history and the world islands. And I would add that the British are part of this too, because if you look at this theory of the geographical pivot of history, Great Britain is not part of the world island. It's part of the offshore island. And I would say that Western Europe is being actually sabotaged, not by Russia and China. I don't think Russia has any views to conquering Western Europe because they don't need to. I think it's more the British. They don't want to play second fiddle to Europe, Russia, and China. They will be the major powers. It doesn't mean that Mackinder's theory is like sacrosanct, because I personally don't see the Chinese and the Russians and the Europeans wanting to dominate the world. They just want to cooperate, but nevertheless, they would be very powerful, and they would end Anglo-American domination. So the war with Russia, of course, is escalating. The United States has passed another $61 billion to help Ukraine fight the Russians. It's now threatening the Chinese. And how is this going to play out financially? Well, it's just going to make the world a lot more multipolar. It's going to make the dollar's importance wane even more. And that's why the Chinese and other South or global South countries are buying so much gold. And that's why I've been telling and talking about how important gold and silver is, not just for these emerging countries, but for us as well, because believe me, the world will not be the same as it was from 1945 up until recently. It's going to be a divided world, and we're going to continue to see the Anglo-American Empire, become even more desperate. And one advice I have to the Europeans, the Western Europeans, especially to the Germans, is to, know who your real enemy is and who really wants to keep you down. Because can you imagine the whole of Western Europe cooperating with Russia, China, the Middle East, Africa? I mean, they have everything they need in terms of resources, industry, technology, transportation. Can you imagine if all those three continents were connected and cooperating in peace? It would make the world a much better place. But of course, the British and the Americans, or the Neocons, they don't want to see that. So that's why I think the Anglo-American Empire, via Blinken this week, they've upped the ante, and I think things are going to get more and more chaotic geopolitically. And should we be fearful? No, I don't think so. I don't think we should be fearful. We should just have faith in ourselves. Not be fearful, and help our families, our community, and try to communicate to people what's really going on out there. And I'm not trying to take sides here, but I'm just trying to tell you what's going on. So you can see now why there's so much determination to bring down the Putin regime. And even now they want to bring down also, of course, the regime in China. In my opinion, they've given billions to Taiwan as well. It's because the world island being in control is the end of the Anglo-American Empire and the neocon dream of world domination. And I actually don't think China, Russia, or Europe want world domination. They just want to cooperate amongst themselves. And I mean, the United States, for example, in of itself, yes, it's part of the outlying islands, but it doesn't need anything from the world island, actually, to be honest. It has all the resources necessary. It has two huge oceans protecting it, the Atlantic and the Pacific. It has South America, who's gravitating towards the world island through BRICS. So that's a big mistake. Big mistake. So there's the old theory of Thucydides' trap, which says that a falling empire, an empire that's on its last legs, will do anything to stay in charge, and that could be very dangerous. And that's where I see the world right now. But unfortunately, financially, the Anglo-American Empire is really on its last legs. And of course, it will affect the whole world, the world island financially. But the world island, they're the ones who are acquiring a lot of the physical gold. They're the ones who have a lot of the resources. And that's why Africa is so important there as well. So, that's where I see things. So there you go. With that, I'm going to wish you all a great weekend and take care. Bye.